This is episode 42 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Tom Wheelwright, who is an entrepreneur, best-selling author, rich dad advisor, and international authority on tax. You might have read his book, Tax-Free Wealth. It's all over Amazon, and also his new book, Win-Win Wealth Strategy, also a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller. Tom, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's great being with you, Jonathan.
Yeah, I suppose you get these questions all the time. Like, people don't know what they're doing with taxes and real estate investing. Is that what you found over your whole career now?
It is shocking. Actually, I run into developers, syndicators who've been doing it for years and still don't know what they're doing. So I'm like mystified.
Yeah. Do you think it comes from a lack of education on the tax side, that people get kind of interested in making money, but not protecting money?
I think some of it's, a lot of it's a lack of education, and a lot of it is simply being lazy, frankly. I think that some of it's just, well, that would require work on my part. So why would I do it?
So you created something called the Wealthability System, which is also, you have a show on that as well. So do you want to give us an overview on what that is? If someone comes to you and says, help me, obviously you have to know what they have, but what's the Wealthability System about, and how do you apply it to clients?
Yeah. So we decided a number of years ago, rather than have a single CPA firm where we could only serve a limited number of people, we develop a network of CPA firms and tax advisors. So now we have 65 firms across the US and Canada, and we're continually expanding that. And so that allows us, first of all, to take anybody from a brand new investor to somebody who's a very sophisticated investor, like, the clients that I handle. And then second of all, what I've looked at is, I've looked at the tax law so long that I recognize the patterns in the tax law. And if you have patterns, you can develop a formula. And if you have a formula, you can develop a system. And so what we've done is, CPAs are not very good at coming up with new ideas. It's not their strength. But they're really good at following a system. So we train our CPAs. It'll take them anywhere from 3 to 6 months before they even qualify to take on a client.
Yeah.
That comes through us, because we want to make sure that they are following our system, because they're not better CPAs than anybody else. They just have a better system and a better network and better training. They just have a better group of people around them and a better system around them. And on top of that, we have software that we developed just for this purpose. And we just take them through 10 simple steps. And once you get through it, if you do what, if you do what you're told to do and you do what comes up, you're going to make more money and pay less tax.
I wanted to ask you a question just on a kind of a side note. Is one of the big thing that people are missing just in overall tax advantages when it comes to real estate investing? Is there depreciation issues that people don't understand? Because to me, that's one thing that I don't think about enough. I think about it in terms of like other assets. I have friends who are like, oh, I'm going to buy a plane, I'm going to depreciate it. But there's something that's really important about depreciation when it comes to real estate investing.
Oh my heavens, it's shocking. I mean, you think about this. If you buy a plane, you're probably going to get some type of debt on it, but a good portion of the you're going to put a serious down payment on that plane.
Yeah.
With real estate, you might only put a 10 or 20% down payment on it. And yet you get all the depreciation benefits. The bank gets none of them. And so literally, if you're at an 80% loan to value versus 100% equity, you literally multiply your tax benefits by 5. Right? Instead of getting a tax benefit based on your money, you get one benefit on your money and 4 times on the bank's money. So really, you've got 5 times the benefit as if you just invested yourself, besides having 5 times the amount of real estate. But depreciation is huge, especially right now. We have an 80% bonus depreciation in 2023. Before this year, it was 100%. And that is unheard of in the history of the world. I mean, literally, we get to deduct 80% of our land improvements and the contents of the building the day we place our real estate in service. So that could be the day we close if it's already placed in service,
right?
Or it could be the day we finished our development of it and we place it in service. But That's a big number. I mean, that can be 20 to 30% of what you paid for the real estate. And if you put 20% down and you get a 25% deduction, that means you're actually getting bigger
You're
deduction
ahead.
than the money you put in.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, the depreciation is huge. People don't understand cost segregation. I find some syndicators that don't do cost segregation just because I think they're lazy, even though they know they should. They're going, well, my investors don't care. Well, but shouldn't you care about your investors?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, with bonus depreciation, you can literally double your rate of return simply because the government's paying half of the down payment.
It's so funny because my son is a big board game person. We have like hundreds of board games, and I like have never made him play cash flow. And now I'm like, okay,
Oh my heavens.
Yeah, what am I even thinking? He's 21, and I'm like, it's time. We got to do it right now.
For sure.
Yeah. So over the years, how did you and Robert partner on a lot of things with Rich Dad and the advisory business?
You know, I remember a very specific time. I had just written Tax Free Wealth. He'd asked me to write it, but I just written it. We were on stage at the Paris in Las Vegas. And, we'd just been through, right? This is 2011 and 12. And we'd just been through 2008, 9, 10, where we had this major crash. And we were talking about stimulus, right? You kept hearing this idea that this is a stimulus package and this big stimulus package. And I'm on stage and I'm talking to the audience and it's my turn. We've got all the advisors there. And I said, so the tax law is really just a series of stimulus packages, mainly for business owners, investors. And that's when I saw the light bulb go on. He looked at me, and goes, really? I said, yeah, that's what it is. After that, I mean, we were off.
Yeah.
We went literally around the world multiple times in the next, 10 years. And before the pandemic. And it was amazing to learn how to teach with him, to learn, because he's the consummate student. He's never knows enough. He's never learned enough. Literally to this day, we have a weekly meeting where we have to study a video or something that he's brought to our attention, and we have to discuss it in that meeting. So every single week, and it's fantastic. And it can be about the economy. It could be about, why is there so much homelessness? Whatever it is, we're talking about it because he wants to constantly be studying.
Yeah. And I mean, that was part of Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, I remember the descriptions of him just being there, questioning everything and still doing it.
He hasn't stopped.
Yeah. But it's a great way to learn. And I mean, I think that's part of obviously what you're doing with these books. It's like, hey, you're going to get the resources in, but it's not like you still need the professionals to help you, but this is like an eye opener for people to say like, oh, wow, it could be this easy. Not necessarily easy, but we could be doing this so much smarter.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I think, I've been doing it for 40 plus years, so I do think it's easy. It's not as hard as people think. It takes a little bit of time. I typically find it takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months to get things set up properly. But then you're off and running. And why not? I mean, when taxes are your single biggest expense, and especially if you're in real estate, oh my heavens, if you're not taking advantage of the tax law, you're missing half of your return.